Hi, my name's Jeff. We're at Calgary Cycle today, and I'll be showing you how to do a wheel true. Alright, so we are going to do a light basic wheel true on this customer's front wheel. A couple things that you'll want to check beforehand that we've already gone ahead and done. These will be things maybe in a separate video, but you want to make sure your hub is adjusted, should be smooth, should be no play in it, so there's no side to side movement in the truing stand while you're actually truing it. The other thing you want to go ahead and double check is your dish. So we've got this all pre-set up. Essentially all you're doing is checking from side to side and making sure your dish is nice and even on both sides. Now, depending on the level of true, how bad the wheel is, how much it's out, and spoke tension, you may have to do that a number of times. This being on a newer bike that's been very lightly ridden, it's just a light wheel true. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, set this up in our truing stand. This guy in here, just set on the axles, nice and tight. Then what we're going to do is we're going to grab our spoke wrench, go through your spoke wrenches. If you're at home, chances are you've got a multi-tool that will have several. So check and make sure you've got a nice firm fit. You don't want a whole lot of play. You don't want to run the risk of those spoke nipples actually stripping out on you. Some of them, in a lot of cases, are aluminum nipples, so they can strip out very easily. So you just want to be very careful and cautious of that. So all we're going to do is we're just going to start lightly spinning the wheel, moving our tabs in lightly. And you can do this one of two ways. You can either go by eye if you're experienced and keep an eye on the gap, which I prefer to do so I don't scratch the rim. So I'm just looking for the gap, and then I'm just going to lightly tighten up a few spokes, and just small turns is all it needs. I already know how far this is out, but generally, you know, an eighth of a turn is generally about all you'll want to start with if you're not sure or confident in your truing skills as of yet. It's better to take a little bit longer to do it and do it right than over tension a spoke. The other thing to keep in mind, sometimes it's better to back off spoke tension. Checking tension on both sides is something you'll want to keep an eye on as well, and that's just a matter of grabbing and sort of getting a feel for where the spokes are actually at. You'll notice some are a little looser than others. So you want to keep an eye on that tension as not to throw one side off too much. So we're just going to keep going through until everything's nice and even, smooth, and your side to side is nice and tight. Now, the more important thing on wheels, especially a disc wheel, is the tension is more important than the actual true itself. Having even spoke tension throughout makes for a much stronger, much more durable wheel. And sometimes you'll have to rotate one spot through just back and forth. In this case, you can hear a little bit of a grind. So we're going to try and take that out. Keep giving it a spin. So right now it's relatively true. So what I want to do is I want to go to my valve stem and I want to check spoke tension throughout. That little bit of creaking is normal. It's the spokes actually rubbing on each other. What I'm trying to do is get an idea of where the spoke tension is at relatively for this wheel. With wheel, spoke tension is a little different from front wheel to back wheel. On the front wheel, you'll tend to have a little more tension on the disc brake side, just because this is the side that gets a little more force. On the rear wheel, the drive side tends to be under a lot more tension than the disc side. So just keep that in mind when you're touring the wheel. And of course, if you're not sure, it is best to bring to your local shop, again, hopefully Calgary Cycle, to do any and all work that you need done. So we are just about done with this. And you're just going to keep moving your tab a little closer, and just shortening the gap in the distance between it and the rim, just to get it as straight as you possibly can while keeping spoke tension right where it should be. And there we are. We are done. She's nice and straight. I'm going to double check my spoke tension at the end of this. Make sure everything is nice and even. Go all the way back to my spokes, or my valve stem, and we're good. This wheel is now ready to roll. You will hear a little bit of popping and pinging if it's a major wheel true, and that's just from spokes settling into place. So that will usually go away with some turning, some hard pedaling, and some leaning from side to side into the bike. That will go away. If you do get excessive popping and pinging, it's usually a good idea to put back into a touring stand and double check and make sure it's all true.